All right, y'all, we're going to get started. So if we can just kind of conversations down or elsewhere. John, could you close those doors? Well, she's in for
You have to stay up here for the first. Can you just sit with me for a little bit?
No.
Just like 5 minutes.
Why?
Just
Why?
because I'm like you're a big part of the beginning of it.
I'll be right next to you. All right, so today we have Mike Gabrawi, husband of Ramonda Gabrawi. She wanted to make sure that everybody knew that she was attached to this guy. We're still trying to figure out why, but anyways, Mike is, you guys have been attending St. Paul's for a year-ish, year and a half, something like that. So Mike is a very special guy to me and Sherry, obviously, and he may tell you why, but anyways, without further ado, here's Mike.
Thank you. Hey everybody, this is this is proof that God will use anyone to provide His message. So hopefully it's a bit casual. So hopefully, if anybody has any questions, just so everybody knows, I'm a film producer, and just to give some context, Ramon decided to kind of give the history of how I got here, and I think it's a big part of this talk is a bit about the trials that God puts us through, and in my job, there's nothing really glamorous about it. It's almost entirely bad news, and it is a constant trial by fire. So, but to that end, this year you have to look forward to Mel Gibson talking an Instagram influencer off the cliff. And I just did a movie that's basically Die Hard on a beach. That's called Last Resort. That's super fun. And then finally, Sharks on a Plane. That'll come out later this year, which is actually a lot of fun. Sharks on a Plane. And any film questions, related questions, you can direct to me. Anything spiritual, I would say one of the Peters or John or Randy. John or Randy or any of those folks are going to be much better. So how I got here. So I just wanted to give a little context to this kind of odd path that I've gone on. So both my parents are doctors. My mom was a big cinephile, so growing up as a kid, I used to go to the movies like at least once a week, if not more. Better. At least once a week, if not more. And then my dad, who's also a doctor, who's a pathologist, was also an amateur photographer and put a camera in my hand when I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And from that point on, probably shortly thereafter, I have this vivid memory of examining a specimen, being in his lab and being in the middle of examining this specimen, and I was probably 12, and he was showing me the difference between what cancer feels like versus healthy tissue. And it was probably around that time that I said, I think I'm gonna make movies, and that's kind of where it all started. So, cut to, I kind of go up, I'm making short films all when I'm growing up. I go to film school, I graduate film school, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. You either have to go to New York or you have to go to LA. So New York scared me, so I'm like, even LA annoys me, but New York scares me, so I'm gonna end up coming to LA. So I come to LA. So I didn't come to LA. I started saving money because I have friends here and they're like, you have to save money. It's like so expensive to come here. Just save up as much as you can before you get here because it's such an expensive place to live. So I literally do whatever I could. This is probably the first phase of how, I see God's hand working in everything I do. And it was the toughest time. I have no connections in Hollywood. I don't know anybody in the entertainment industry. So I'm doing anything I can. I end up working at a car wash to try to just save up enough money to get out. And surprisingly, that's not the most lucrative path to go, working at a car wash. So so I'm doing this, and I have a number in mind of what I have to save before I move to Los Angeles. And I can't remember what that was, but it wasn't like a huge number. It was probably a couple $1,000s. And while I'm working there, just like, I'm like, I can't believe I have a college degree and this is what I'm doing. Our house gets robbed in St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Our house gets robbed, and my beloved hi-fi stereo is stolen. And the insurance check comes for my stereo, and it's exactly the number I was working towards to move to LA. So I basically get that. I pack up my sweet Volkswagen Fox and move to Los Angeles. And I move in with Sherry Wassef's. By the way, I'm Sherry Yusuf's cousin and Ramos Iskander's cousin, if you guys know them. And I have a very big extended family here in LA. So I drive across country in my Fox, and I get to the Wassefs. And the week after I move in with the Wassefs, they are filming the Jacksons miniseries in their house. And it was, they have a very beautiful house, and they shooting there. And so that was like that was the week after I got here. I ingratiate myself with them, and I end up getting my very first job in the entertainment industry, kind of working with this production a week later, something like this. And then, and this just all kind of ties back to that struggle of like graduating college and this, I don't know what it was, probably 6 months or something. I can't remember how long it was before I moved out, but that struggle was like just questioning and praying and trying to figure out what my path is. And it just proves God's perfect timing. And then what else? And then, okay, so that's it. And then after I live with the Wassefs for a while, I move out. And fun fact for the Wassefs, I don't know if I can share this, Sherry. So when I'm leaving, I'm like, to Sherry's parents, I'm like, what can I do? How can I thank you for all that you've done for me? And they're like, well, it'd be great if you could find Sherry, a nice boy from the Midwest, that's a lot like you, but maybe with a medical degree. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep an eye out. And then I'm like, anything else? What else can I do? Because you guys have been so generous with me. And they're like, well, we'd really like Sherry to graduate college before she hits 18. And I'm like, okay, done. I can help you with that as well. So that was my thing. So without further ado, there's a lot of singing and dancing in this, so interrupt anytime you want. But we'll kick off, and I like kind of have some things here, and I tie it back into the thing I know the best, which is films, so movies. So please feel free to interrupt, but I'll jump in. See if the audio works. Oh, it doesn't work. This is the movie. So if you look really closely, Sherry's in the beginning of this. Hold on, let me figure out where the volume is. You don't know where the volume will be. Okay, perfect. Sorry, guys. I could. Hold on one second. Let's see if that.
It's cool. Mr. Gordy just moved to California, but he still keeps his Detroit house. Thank you.
Jermaine, come on.
Let me take you guys upstairs.
So after thoughtful prayer, when Peter approached me, I was in the midst of closing this movie, I think, and it was one of the hardest movies I ever closed. The one finished this movie in Spain, and it was really, really tough. So I was what was on my mind more than anything else is when I go through these trials, I'm never closer to God than when I'm in the financial closing of a movie. It is the hardest job anyway, because you're dealing with criminals and the mentally ill. It's just a really tough business. So I was very, very close to God as I'm like struggling to get this movie closed that seemed impossible. So this idea of trial by fire and what God puts us through to draw us closer to him, and that mission kind of came back to me. I was trying to connect it to how I got into this business. So I, like anybody, obviously, I turned to Instagram for some inspiration on what I could find. And because my phone is constantly listening to me, this is literally one of the first things that popped up that I was looking at.
When God wanted to make David a king, he didn't give him a crown, he gave him Goliath. When God wanted to raise Joseph to the palace, he didn't give him a shortcut, he gave him prison. When God wanted to make Esther a queen, he didn't give her comfort, he gave her crisis. When God wanted to make Moses a leader, he didn't give him a stage, he gave him a wilderness. Many times when we feel like God's breaking us, really he's building us. God doesn't give us what we expect in life, he gives us what we need in order to become all that we need to in this life.
So that was pretty timely. I felt like that was exactly what I'm talking about. I never connected it to the bigger picture of all of the pillars of our faith. So then, and if you guys are interested, if anybody wants to use this, I have my ChatGPT, the actual prompt that I used. So if you guys need it for research, it's there as well. So I can give that to you. All right, so I'll jump in. So consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. When life puts pressure on us, whether through hardship, waiting, loss, or confusion, we tend to resist. We want comfort, clarity, and ease. Yet we're called to have joy in the midst of these trials. And James begins with a challenging invitation. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. That doesn't mean we pretend pain doesn't hurt. It means we choose to trust that God is at work even in the hardest things. But why joy? Because trials are not meaningless. They refine us. Like gold purified in fire, suffering burns away what is weak and reveals what is true. The testing of our faith produces perseverance, a steadfastness that doesn't quit, even when circumstances are tough, and perseverance doesn't stop there. It forms character, and character births hope. Joy here is not enjoying pain. It is trusting that God is using hardship to produce perseverance, maturity, and a humbler heart that does not lack anything. So God uses these hardest moments to shape our hearts, not to harm us, but to make us more like Christ. Peter reminds us that trials prove the genuineness of our faith. What's being tested isn't worthless wood, hay, or straw. It's faith that has eternal value, and through these moments, and though these moments are painful, they lead to praise, glory, and honor when Christ is revealed. Paul, too, encourages us in the midst of affliction. We do not lose heart because God renews us inwardly, day by day. Our troubles may be heavy now, but they are momentary compared to the eternal glory awaiting us. Weakness also becomes a platform for God. Paul's life after meeting Christ was marked by constant hardship. Imprisonments, beating, rejection, shipwrecks, and ongoing physical suffering. Yet none of these struggles weakened his faith. They deepened it. His struggles demonstrated that instead of viewing hardship as failure, Paul reframed it as the place where God's strength was most visible. His limitations didn't disqualify him, they magnified God. Paul highlights this with, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair." And this is Ramonda's portion, because she didn't think I was really going to prepare something, so this is Ramonda's. And she's found, of course she tied it to jewelry. This is the way that diamonds are made. So pressure creates strength. Diamonds are one of the hardest substances on earth because they're compressed. Struggle builds resistance, grit, emotional muscle. Heat refines identity. Without extreme conditions, carbon never becomes a diamond. Hidden value is revealed. A rough diamond looks ordinary until it's cut and polished. And clarity comes from cutting. Diamonds only shine after being cut, an uncomfortable and even painful process. Rarity and worth increase. Not everyone endures the pressure, but those who do emerge changed, stronger and more valuable. Not because they suffered, but because they grew. And this kind of tying into the growing, this struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It often means you're being shaped. The crucifixion led to the resurrection. What looked like defeat became redemption. Similarly, when we meet and struggle with faith, it can become the very means God uses to bring growth, healing, or life to others. Trials like those in James 1 don't just build perseverance, they also grow humility by forcing dependence on God, stripping pride, and reshaping how we ourselves and others, how we see ourselves and others. Humbling ourselves under God's hand. And this is something that, like, just to tie this back to what I do for a living, it is you are charged with creating the environment by which to get that you can produce something, you can make something, and then willing it into existence. So much of my job is like kind of willing things into existence and creating these opportunities and putting people together and finding things. It is convincing people to do things they shouldn't do and then taking credit for it once it actually works. So that is producing in a nutshell. And so you are charged with everything is up to you, like figuring out how you're going to, the creative package and how the financing is going to come together, where you're going to shoot it that's going to make most sense creatively and financially. It's like a up at dawn, pride swallowing endeavor producing. It's really tough. But I think it was Ashraf he was speaking about Abuna Mikhail, and there was a great moment there where he said, how Abuna Mikhail would stop, and if there was a problem when they were in a meeting, he'd say, let's pray, and they're like, okay, we'll pray. Yeah, and he's like, no, let's pray about this. I adopted that from that talk, and it was so important to me because there were so many things. This movie, when I was closing it, this last one, it would fall over like once a week. There would be something catastrophic. This movie's not going to happen, and I would pray and pray and pray, and I'm like, it's out of my control, completely out of my hands. Doesn't make any sense that this would work, and somehow he would resolve these problems over and over and over again. Once I got into the production of the film went incredibly well, but that was like the most trying time. So these trials also allow you to just let go and let God. So humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may exalt you in due time. Written in a context of suffering, anxiety, and spiritual attack, Peter ties humility to casting our cares on God and standing firm in trials, showing that suffering pushes believers to bow under God's timing and power rather than control outcomes ourselves. Trials become invitations to bow under God's timing and wisdom rather than demand quick relief or insist on our plan. Christ's humility and suffering. Jesus himself humbled himself by becoming obedient to death and even death on the cross. When I endure unjust, confusing, or drawn-out trials without retaliation and entrust myself to God, I am being shaped into the same Christ-like lowliness. In Gethsemane, the struggle sharpened Jesus' mission. The cross wasn't a detour. It was the way to salvation. It's the way salvation would come. In the same way, our deepest struggles often sit at the center of our calling. And even when they feel like obstacles, pressure didn't derail Jesus' purpose, it confirmed it. So trials expose pride, limits, and teach dependence. In trials, I discover that I'm not in control, not as strong as I thought, and not self-sufficient. That exposure can be humiliating. Trials produce perseverance. Trials produce perseverance, and perseverance makes us mature and complete, not lacking anything, which includes a humble posture before God. Joy, seeing God's hand in hindsight, which is one of my favorite things. When you look back at the struggles, like I think about how I came out here, and I was like, is this what I'm supposed to do? There's got to be something more responsible than this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you look at it kind of days, weeks, years, decades in hindsight, and you see how his plan was for a greater good. So joy grows as we start to see that God is not wasting our pain. Like Joseph, we can say, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. And that recognition is deeply humbling and deeply hopeful. Where has this trial, for us to meditate on, where has this trial shown me I'm not enough in my own way? What illusions about my strength or independence is God gently dismantling? Can you name one past trial where, with some distance, you can now see how God used it to soften you, to make you kinder and more dependent on him? In your current trial, what small joy can you choose today? Not because you feel good, but because you trust God is forming humility and perseverance you will one day be grateful. You will one day be grateful for. And finally, how do we live this out? Be joyful in hope, holding on to the promise that God is faithful. Be patient in affliction, not rushing God or resisting his process. Be faithful in prayer, keeping an open line with the one who works all things for good. And persevere, knowing a crown of life awaits those who endure. Rejoice in suffering, not because we love pain, but because it connects us to Christ's own journey. And this is my favorite when I feel like I am like scrambling, trying to do anything I can to remedy a situation that's beyond my control. Be still and know that I am God. Okay, so as a kid growing up, I I had trouble kind of reflecting or understanding emotions. I always was such a movie kid that I would understand things about the human condition through movies. And I would understand emotions or things in a bigger scope watching a movie about it. So I've collected a handful of films, connected them to a Bible verse, and I have some trailers to show you and some things to show you. So some of these movies you may have heard of, some of you haven't, but I recommend all of them, and there's a couple of extra credit ones at the end. And I'll try to tie a couple of things together here. All right, so 2 Corinthians. Therefore, we do not lose heart. This is a movie called Silence, by the way, that was Martin Scorsese, I believe. And it's an incredible true story. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So, as I was saying, it's a Scorsese movie. In the 17th century, two young Portuguese Jesuit priests secretly travel to Japan, where Christianity is brutally persecuted, to find their missing mentor and support hidden Christian communities, only to face harrowing violence and a profound crisis of faith as they are pressured to renounce their beliefs.
Our Lord said to them, "Go ye into the whole world, and preach the gospel to every living creature." Ferreira is lost to us. They renounce God in public and surrendered the faith. That's not possible. Father Ferreira risked his life to spread the faith all over Japan. It seems to me that our mission here is more urgent than ever. We must go fight Father Ferreira. This is in your hearts, and both of you. We must trust God as well as the moment is so full in our country. Into hiding.
I'm sorry, guys. Let's skip to the next one. We got a little buffering issue. So the next movie that movie is amazing, by the way, Silence, of Gods and Men. This is about Trappist monks in Algeria who face violence and death with calm, prayerful solidarity. Their fear, weakness, and final choices show humility under God's hand rather than heroic ego.
Voici la nuit, l'immense nuit des origines. Ex hormis l'amour qui se décide. En ses paroles, le sable est lourd. La terre où tomberait le feu.
I'm going to try to make it smaller.
Voici la nuit, l'immense nuit des origines.
To work. Make it smaller. There we go. Thank you, Peter. Apologies, guys. I'm sorry. Let's see, we'll give it one last time. Otherwise, I'll just skip the trailer parts.
Voici la nuit, l'immense nuit des origines. Et rien n'existe hormis l'amour qui se décide. On sait pas le sable est lourd, la terre où tomberait le feu.
Monastère doit avoir une protection militaire. Je pense que ça n'est pas souhaitable, non. Et comment pouvez-vous dire ça?
Mais qu'est-ce qu'on fait s'ils viennent au monastère? On se laisse tuer gentiment?
C'est un risque, oui. Peut-être faut-il partir.
Est-ce que ce village est la grandi avec le monastère?
Si vous partez, on ne saura pas où se poser.
Les consignes deviennent très sérieuses. Vous savez que personne d'autre que nous peut nous décider à quitter ce pays.
I'll just show you guys. I'll show share the movies with you guys afterwards. Sorry about that. Next one is one you probably have all seen, which is It's a Wonderful Life. Consider it pure, so I'm sure you guys have seen this, or it's been on the background during Christmas. Christmas Eve, a despairing small-town man who believes his life has been a failure is shown by an angel how much worse the world would have been had he never been born. Hold on one second. And I tie that to James. Oh, sorry. Tie that to James. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If you didn't hear, this is, I think everybody knows this movie. Christmas Eve, a despairing small-town man believes his life has been a failure, is shown by an angel how much worse the world would have been had he never been born.
Well, who are you? I told you, George, I'm your guardian angel. Well, who are you? I told you, George, I'm your guardian.
I've been summoned.
An angel. What else do you want, Larry? You want?
All right, so it's a Wonderful Life. I'll let you guys check. You know the movie, so we'll let you check it out. I'm just going to talk about one scene a couple of things that you can point out that kind of tie back into this. The scene is on the bridge in the snow. George Bailey reaches the end of himself, financially ruined, ashamed, convinced that everyone would be better off without him. His desperate prayer leads to Clarence's strange intervention and the "what if you'd never been born" journey, which humbles George, showing him how limited his vision of his own life has been. When he returns to the bridge and cries, "Please God, I want to live again," he runs home rejoicing, still facing the same debts and legal trouble, but now with a grateful, surrendered heart. So the connection is George doesn't get joy because the trial disappears. He gets joy because, like James 1, 2 through 4, his testing strips away pride and self-pity, and he comes back to the same hard circumstances with a humbler, freer heart that can finally say thank you for this life. Shawshank Redemption, another movie that I think you guys probably all know. Wrongfully accused convicted banker sentenced to life in prison forges an enduring friendship with a fellow inmate using hope and ingenuity to outsmart corruption and reclaim his freedom. Romans 5, 3 through 4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, hope, and character, hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all the evidence. This was revenge. He fired the gun empty and then stopped to reload.
You strike me as a remorseless man, Mr. Dufresne. I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back.
They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take.
I'm Mr. Norton, the warden. I believe in 2 things: discipline and the Bible. Here you will receive both.
Why'd you do it?
I didn't, since you asked.
You can fit right in. Everybody in here is innocent. Hey, what you waiting for?
Didn't do it.
He had a quiet way about him. A wall cannot talk. That just wasn't normal around here.
On the outside, I was an honest man, straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook.
I think it would be fair to say I liked Andy from the start.
Think you'll ever get out of here?
I don't think so.
Comes down to this joy.
Speed this up. So we all know Shawshank. I'll do the same thing here. So the scene would be Andy overhears Captain Hadley complaining about inheritance taxes. While the inmates tar the roof, he risks his life to offer financial advice, then asks for nothing for himself, only beers for the men. As they sit in the sun with the cold beers, Red says, "We felt like free men, while Andy stays in the shade, content just to watch his friends savor the moment." In that simple rooftop scene, Andy shows us what James 1, 2 through 4 looks like behind bars. Instead of turning inward in his trials, he lets suffering produce a quiet, humble joy that serves others and makes them feel free, even while they're still in prison. Andy in Shawshank is a picture of perseverance. He lets perseverance finish its work through daily hidden faithfulness in a hostile environment, which mirrors God using long trials to mature and quiet our ego. And this is a kind of obscure one, but I love this movie. It's a Japanese film. It was a couple of years ago. Hirayama is a solitary toilet cleaner in Tokyo who finds quiet joy in his carefully ordered routine. He has a tranquil life, his tranquil life is gently unsettled when unexpected encounters and family ties begin to pull him out of his shell and force him to face the past he has tried to leave behind. Romans, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. All right, I'll skip over it, but it's worth checking out. It's a great little movie. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry about the buffering. So the scene I would tie to here is Hirayama's daily routine: up before dawn, folding his bedding, watering his plants, driving his little van, then meticulously cleaning public toilets across Tokyo. There's no promotion coming, no applause, but we see his contentment in the way he works, pausing to notice trees, listen to old cassette tapes, photograph light through leaves. His circumstances don't change, yet his posture towards them is one of gratitude and reverence. Here, the connection being Hirayama's life looks monotonous from the outside, but like James said, he lets perseverance finish its work. By embracing his lowly, hidden tasks, he discovers a humble joy that doesn't depend on status, only on faithfulness in the trial right in front of him. Extra credit, if you guys want to check out more movies that I think are really good about faith, that are a little bit left of center, that are not known film. These are not, not these kind of more low-budget faith-based movies. These are just really interesting films. Priest, the one in 1994, not the horror movie. The one in 1994 is just, it has a couple of scenes that are just all about God's hand stepping in. It's not an easy movie. You have to have a bit of a tolerance for the whole LGBTQ component, but it's an incredible movie about faith. Same with Calvary. That's from, God, I can't believe it's been 10 years, but that's about 10 years ago, and I recommend this one to all of my priest friends because it's about a priest, a Catholic priest, and it's fantastic. And then Danny Boyle did a great movie, Millions, that's about these little kids that find, like bank robbers throw a big duffel bag full of cash out of the window to come get it later. These kids find it, and it's what would 10-year-olds do with a bag full of cash. And it's an awesome movie, and there's just all these intercessions where these saints are like in their lives the whole time, and it's super touching. It's a great little movie. So those are three like very independent, I think, are showcase that are about faith and about these trials. And I think that's it. I mean, just as a reflection, what trial in your life right now feels the most heavy? And where have you seen God refine your faith through difficulty? And how can we support one another in perseverance and hope? Any questions for Peter or Ashraf? Anybody have any questions for the theologians in our group?
I think I just want to make a comment, like just watching, the presentation and listening to you, is that there's a common thread in these movies that people can relate to. You know, I think that's what struck you with a lot of them, and you know, it just reminds me of our faith. And you look at a lot of the other faiths and a lot of rules, a lot of do this, don't do that, and you know, the message of the gospel is relatable. The message of the gospel is one that, you know, if you really dive into it and read the Bible, read the New Testament, you see that God is actually talking to us in the things that pull at our heart, you know. And I think that's the thread that you're seeing in these films or in what you're describing, is that these are things that our Lord is actually communicating to us on a very deep level, and it's stuff that resonates with each of us. And that's why, you know, the more you immerse yourself in our faith, I think the more that you really come to understand that only our Creator understands us in the way that He does. And it's just something that kind of reiterates that point to me. So I like how you kind of tied this into the film. Sorry, the buffering wasn't great, but thank you for the talk. It was very nice. Anybody have any other comments or questions or?
Thank you, Mike, for giving that. It's kind of similar to what Peter was saying, but I think we all kind of have, like you said, I mean, there's a common thread in what humans want in life, and I think it's to reach joy. And we've heard different perspectives. You know, people express it different ways in writing books or through media, through conversation, through podcast, whatever. There's different ways to express it, or just through their lives. So it's rare, I think, for our community to hear this from the perspective of what people's emotions, what people think, and what they desire from the film industry. So I thank you for adding that perspective. I think this is going to sound oversimplified. I think when Job says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return there," if we can just live life according to that simple statement, and just anything outside of that is just almost expected. As long as we live according to our purpose of maybe it's just to leave this place a little better than when we were born, and knowing, expecting there'll be tribulations, there will be trials along this path, this journey, and then we'll find joy in everything we do. I think. I know it's oversimplifying, but thank you, Mike.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, and thanks for pointing out those films. I'm actually very excited to watch Perfect Days, because that kind of goes along with the simplicities, just like the fidelity and simplicity of living your day to day and putting one foot in front of the other and finding meaning in something as, you know, other people would consider abhorrent as cleaning public toilets, right? I mean, that's not something that anybody would cheerfully get out of bed for normally, but that's the kind of thing that I think that we're called to do. And that's the thing that we see in our desert fathers and mothers, is that it's waking up and doing the simple, and fidelity and love and joy in doing those simple things. So.
I'll actually ask you a question, if that's all right. Yeah?
Of course.
But I'll make a comment first. Sorry that we have beautiful pews and terrible Wi-Fi in the church, but we'll try to upgrade the Wi-Fi for you. And afterwards, I'd love to ask you a question about sharks on a plane.
It's fantastic.
Whether Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in it, or, you know, if it's related to snakes on a plane. I appreciate the testimony, because that's really what this is. Back to your life. I'm curious, you live and work directly in Hollywood, and an industry that has obviously intersected in many ways. But on a daily basis, when you're working in Hollywood, like, how do you feel bringing your faith and bringing Christianity into those interactions, into those meetings? Like, you're in the belly of the beast. I'm curious of like more about your experience living in there.
I mean, I think that's such a good question. I feel like the one thing that I kind of cling to, I mean, I feel like I have more in common with my Jewish friends that are faithful and active than my lapsed Catholics that don't go to church and don't have anything. And it pulls me back to the whole, it was Jesus' message at the end of days. It was, we are all one, right? This is before Christianity, right? When he's saying this is before there were Baptists and Protestants and all these things. So that's what I kind of cling to. Is my favorite thing about my job is just being parachuted into somewhere I've never been. I'll probably never go again. Last movie I did was in the Canary Islands, which is like an island off of Africa, or if I'm in provincial China, or if I'm in Mumbai, or if I'm in Thailand. And just seeing that, for me, especially with what I do, filmmakers are filmmakers anywhere in the world. We all are kind of the same carnies that are obsessed with this world. So I just look for that commonality, and I just feel like we're all part of the same body. No matter what your faith is, we're all one. And that's what I always cling to. So, and I think I did this movie with Mel Gibson, and there's somebody that like lives his faith. He is like in it all the time, and he's like a theologian. His father was in the seminary, and it was fascinating. But he's very few people more outspoken about his faith than Mel Gibson. And I feel like you have an opportunity to represent. You have an opportunity to like present it and use your faith. And it always, throughout my career, people are kind of surprised that I go to church, surprised that I am like as faithful as I am, because there's not a lot of that in the industry. But I just connect on the commonality, and I think we're all part of that.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, let's stand and pray.
Thank you so much. You want to read this?
All right, I'll read what's on the screen here. All right. Lord, help us to see trials not as interruptions to our joy, but as pathways to deeper faith. Teach us to trust you when we cannot trace you. Strengthen our hearts, steady our steps, and remind us that you are working in us what cannot be seen, for your glory and for our good. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Is that all right?